Greetings, everyone. My name is Professor Les Henry, and welcome to the Outerview, where reason comes first. And today is a delight to welcome one of my little brothers, because I have not little brother now, you know. I haven't biologically got a little brother, you know, but along the journey, I've inherited loads of little brothers. And this is my little brother, Kehinde Ogunlabi. Brother Kehinde, how you doing today?
I'm blessed, brother. Thank you for having me on the show. I said it in private, I'm going to say it in public. It's an honor.
No, it's an honor for me. And you know what? It's really interesting because I know that I'm Taiwo and you're Kehindes. So maybe at some point. I remember that, yeah, and I remember you're one of the beautiful Yoruba people who always explain that to me. You know, so again, you know, I give thanks and yeah, but what I want you to do is just tell us a little bit, you know, Brother Kehinde, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so like Professor Les said, my name's Brother Kehinde Ogunlabi. I have worked in schools as a mentor, educator, teaching assistant, welfare support, pastoral care for around 25 years across London.
Wow, so you look like a baby, man. When I'm saying black, 25 years, you don't look much older than 25 years.
It's the black soap. It's the black soap.
Yeah.
So across London's and across key stages. So primary, secondary, alternative education, after school, pupil referral units. I've worked for Brent, Haringey, Lambeth. I've worked for, just recently done a lot of work for Kensington and Chelsea Borough, and I've done extensive work in Nigeria. I've been doing work in Nigeria now for the last 10 years, where I organize summer camp for around 200 orphans. And we take people over there as well, just to get reconnected with, Africa, and also for them to actually do good work as well. So I've raised money for that as well. And I've been working for one of the co-founders and the directors at mentoring organization Myriad Academy for boys that has been going for 5 years. And in the last 5 years, I won 5 awards. The most recent award that I won, which was early this year before the pandemic really hit, was the Community Hero Award for Haringey Council.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and I know you through the whole Manhood Academy, but I know you from before that anyway.
Of course, definitely. I got you into a few of my schools.
Yeah, you got me into some of your schools to come and reason with them and shake up some of the teachers and stuff like that before. So, you know, and in some ways you know, it's echoed in what you've already said, but I want you to just develop a little bit more about why the grassroots is so important to everything that you do. Because even what you just discussed about, or what you just shared about what you do, you know, home in Nigeria, on the continent, if you're working with orphans, that's about as grassroots as you can get.
Yeah, definitely. And it humbles you. When we first started doing the project in 2010, I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't been back to Nigeria. That's where my parents are both from. I haven't been back to Lagos. That's where I was actually doing the work since I was 16 or 17, so I didn't know what to expect. And obviously we was going to work in, you know, one of the schools in the ghetto. That's the real ghetto, because remember, ghetto means poor. So that was the real ghetto. So when we was there, and the love that we received from the young people, from the children, from the staff, was truly amazing. And one of the questions that I always get asked from, you know, my colleagues in Nigeria, the teachers in Nigeria that work, you know, with these young people, why do you come back? That's the question that I get asked all the time.
Yeah.
And I say, you know, you're my people, because they're trying to work out why I would volunteer. And I'm raising money, so I'm not getting paid. They're trying to work that one out. because they're trying to think to themselves, what is the passion? What's the motivation for me to come back? Well, when they see me coming back time and time again, then they stop asking the question. Yeah,
but I think this is probably going to be the thing that I say the most on this, because I've probably said it half a dozen times already. I'm not going to say it again now. It's because we embrace that Ubuntu spirit. I am because we are, therefore I am. I am we. It's like when people will say these things about, oh yeah, you know, Prof Les, you've done so great, you know, kicked out of school, kicked out of college, you know, father at 17, father to 5 for 4 women at 20, you should have been destroyed, you should have gone to prison, you should have done this, you should have done that. It's my community. I am an extension of my community, and that's why do you know, brother Kehinde, I don't really care what people think about me personally. I am more interested in judge me by my works. You may not like me as a personality, and in some ways I'm probably not the most likable person anyway, but I represent aspects of my community, and that's why I do what I do. And for me, those are the drivers behind what you do, which is one of the reasons why I wanted you to reason with us on this Outerview, because people need to know whatever problems this system throws at us, we've got the solutions. Sometimes we just need to look inwards at ourselves as peoples of African ancestry, or however we want to style ourselves. Sometimes we just need to look and say, yes, this one can deal with that, or that sister is dealing with this, or that brother is dealing with that, or that group. And I know through what you do at the Manhood Academy, to me, it exemplifies what a grassroots, you know, movement, which hopefully will become an institution, looks like.
Absolutely, and through the grassroots came our most celebrated heroes, you know, the Malcolm X's, the Stokely Carmichaels, you know, the Bob Seals, the Hugh P. Newtons, the Martin Luther Kings, the Steve Bikos. They came out of the grassroots movement. There's so much that we can learn from grassroots organization, because one thing we have to remember, these people that I just mentioned, they didn't know what legacy that they would go on to create. They were just doing what came personally, naturally to them, just like the situation with not just Rosa Parks and Montgomery Boss boycott, but the boycott that was over here in Bristol.
In Bristol, absolutely.
By the bus drivers. They were protesting at the fact that, you know, they
had the unofficial colour bar.
Yeah, so black people could not work on the buses, or as a conductor, as they used to have back in those days. They could work in and around the actual organization, maybe cleaning or doing all the menial jobs. But for the ones where you could actually earn real money to take care of yourself and your family, they couldn't have those things. So there was an unofficial color bar that existed. So they were doing what came naturally, and they became heroes because of it. So much things came up from the grassroots. We look back at them now, and they are studied all over the world in institutions. But these people, when we was teaching them about the heroes in Manhood Academy, and I asked them, you know, some of the things that all of these Steve Biko, Rosa Parks, the Bristol boycott people had all in common. So they was coming out, their heroes, they done this, they done that. I said one of the main things was they were ordinary people that done extraordinary things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like, if we talk about, you know, Garvey, if we talk about Martin Luther King, you know, Coretta Scott King, Malcolm X, you know, Betty Shabazz, his daughters have maintained his legacy. And these, as you say, these are ordinary people. Angela Davis, you know, I went to when she came here last year. She, as far as she's concerned, I'm just an ordinary person. you know, you find yourself in an extraordinary position sometimes, or extraordinary situation. And that for me is, you know, one of the beautiful things I like about, you know, the experiences I've had of the Manhood Academy, because I did something last year, I think, around Black History Month. For I think it was at Middlesex University or one of them. And what I like about it is the fact that there's no visible, I'm the leader, I'm in charge, everybody bow down and worship me. It's like, this person does this, that one does that, this sister does this, that brother does that, and that's how it should be. That for me is how our grassroots organization sustains its dynamic. So it's about leadership and not leaders per se, because charismatic leaders can come and go, and then usually whatever they've created goes with them until the next charismatic leader comes along. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have charismatic leadership, but those people should know what their purpose is.
Absolutely.
They are not the be all and end all, because one person cannot do the works.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for me, I am just fascinated by grassroots organization, Black grassroots organization, and what they have created and sustained up until today. So you got the 100 Black men, you got Andrew Mohammed and Dave Okari and Leo Mohammed, West Side Young Leaders. You've got the Manhood Academy. This is on the basis and standing on the shoulders of the grassroots organizations that created that foundation for us to build and study and learn from, and then move on. In fact, I missed out the Black Panthers, and the thing why I really
absolutely
about the Black Panthers is when it was the whole start of the Black Panthers, and when I was reading Bobby Seale's book, Seize the Time, the history of the Black Panthers, autobiography, he said when Malcolm was killed, he was just vexed, and that's how that's the form of the Black Panthers that started forming in his mind. And he got together with Huey P. Newton. They got together in 1966, in fact, and they said, and he was sitting down with Huey, and they came up with a 10-point plan. And Bobby said, what about number 11, number 12? And Huey P. Newton said, no, 10, that's it. So they were very clear
absolutely
about how to move forward with their plan. So even at the time when the actual system was ridiculing them and actually trying to see the demise of the actual Black Panthers, they actually grew in size, and they also connected with other people who felt the same way as them. And when I was watching the actual movie, the Vanguard movie, the documentary, there were big stars like Marlon Brando and Jane Fonda who supported the Black Panthers movement, because they recognized that there was injustice, and this injustice needed to be dealt with, and the light needed to be shown on. So they used their fame and they used their wealth to actually put Black Panthers on the map. Absolutely extraordinary. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things, which to me is truly amazing.
And it's crucial that you mention those people who supported that. And, you know, one of my heroines who I always talk about is Eartha Kitt.
Yes.
But I loved Eartha Kitt. I just loved what she stood for. But one of the things that people didn't realize was she supported, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King and people like that. She didn't make a big song and dance about it. It's a bit like Michael Jackson. It's one of the things what people don't really understand about Michael Jackson and how much support he gave to grassroots organizations with regards to donations, you know, Nation of Islam apparently, and people like that. And I think it is that whole idea that if you embrace that notion of a collective responsibility and you realize that I cannot just be here for me. Now, don't get me wrong, because I'm not promoting martyrdom or saying to people, you know, go and chain yourself to Parliament and get shot by the police or whatever. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if you recognize that there is this responsibility that goes beyond you as an individual, then do something. I'll be honest with you, I got no problem with people moaning about their predicament. But do something while you're moaning. Because nobody don't really mourn more than me. Because most people, they call me misery, Mr. Miserable, you know, whatever. I was reasoning with my brethren yesterday on the Outerview, and he said the first time he saw me, he said to Hakeem, "What's wrong with this brother, yeah, man? Him looks so vexed." And Hakeem said, "No, man, that's how he looks 24/7. But the thing is, I will moan, but I will do something about it.
Agreed.
You see the thing that needs to be fixed or addressed, and like what you said with the Manhood Academy and the fantastic work you do with our brothers and sisters, you know, in Nigeria, you see the thing, you realize it's within my remit. I can do something about this. You just get on with it.
Yeah.
You just, you know, to me, you just get on with it, and it's not rocket science. And it kind of leads me into the other way, because part of that notion of getting on with it that I know you exemplify in your works is this intergenerational. You bridge these generational gaps. So give us a little insight into what you do there.
Definitely. And I think the intergeneration gap is much needed in the community. We have to understand we are African people. So wherever we are, we're African people. I went to Geneva about a good 4 or 5 years ago, and I saw a lot of African people there existing there, and there's a big community in there in the middle of Europe. Geneva is the middle of Europe. It dawned on me that, you know, African people exist all over the world, but also it dawned on me in what capacity are we still adhering to the African traditions and principles in certain ways. Obviously, when in Europe, when Black people are in Europe, it's like a fish out of water, in all sense of the word. Yeah. So actually trying to bring traditions and what we are and our essence to it can be very hostile at times environment. It can be very difficult, but one of them is actually how we see our elderly, how we see our old people, because in the Caribbean, in Africa, our older generation are put high up there.
In general, absolutely, yeah.
They are high up there. It doesn't matter whether you're in the Caribbean or you're in Africa. When we was in St. Lucia, it was amazing because my wife is from Sierra Leone, and when we was going to the airport, the time we was leaving, they was celebrating Mende Day in St. Lucia. They understand, and Mende is what they speak when they're Mende is one of the languages that they speak when they're in Sierra Leone. But it's maintaining that tradition, and the intergeneration gap in the UK, I find it's been very difficult just because of the way they view the elderly. Yeah, even with this whole pandemic, the way the elderly was spoke about by this government was disgraceful.
Absolutely, such a brilliant point.
Just leave them. Just leave them. They're gonna die anyway, so just leave them.
Do you know something? Brother Kehinde, I give thanks, because you know something, I've been trying to drum. I'll tell you what happened, why for me this is so important. I used to do plumbing and heating with this guy. So, you know, white guy, because I used to do contract work, and I was one of the only Black plumbers who used to do contract work for like the councils and these big heating companies. And the reason why I was one of the only Black ones, because a lot of the Black dudes could not take the abuse. Whereas with me, I used to just go in there, like, I drive my van, I got my tools, I go into the place, and I just say to them, look, right, I've heard all the monkey jokes, all the coon jokes, all the nigger jokes. You probably can't tell them as good as I can, so let's leave them behind. That's how I used to straighten them out. When I would go there and let's say they were supposed to drill the hole for my boiler on a Monday, and they didn't because they didn't feel like it, I would go into the site hut and race them all up and say to them, you either deal with me the same as anyone else, or we go outside and we'll sort it out. 'Cause I don't really care one way or the other. So I was one of the only black fitters I saw in all the years I was doing contract work. I was the only one. Most of them couldn't handle it. And then when I started to bring youths with me, it might be one or two. But the point that I'm making is, I used to work with this white guy, and maybe I read him wrong, but it's like he couldn't wait for his mum to die and his dad.
Wow.
Because they're just thinking, and a lot of, and I find this in a lot of, you know, cultures, and I'm not, you know, when I talk about a lot of white cultures that seem to go across class, and a lot of people may get upset when I say that, but it's almost like they're planning for when their parents are gone, so them can have the house, them can have, and don't get me wrong, because boy, the dead left thing, that affects everybody. But what I'm basically saying is the mindset. So when you hear that the government can sanction people who are supposedly got whatever it is, COVID, and just chuck them in care homes where you know they're not getting the support. So that's the point that I think, the beautiful point you've just raised. Sometimes we have to look at the wider culture to make sense of these occurrences.
Absolutely.
And it is an aspect of that. It's an aspect of, you know, they're old, they'll be gone soon, you know, they're a drain on the state. Not, these are the repositories and the resources. These are the embodiment of wisdom, or should be, generally. But,
absolutely,
you know, and for me, so, you know, that's just such a brilliant point, because that is what the intergenerational link should be based on.
Absolutely. And the way our elders were treated regarding the Windrush, all of this is all linked.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was absolutely horrendous. So when you've got a situation where you can actually have a government that can say certain things and sanction certain behavior around the elderly, we've got to break this thing down, because it's not African. It's not what we're used to. Even though some of our people, and sometimes they adopt those type of ways and those type of thinking, and you have to
absolutely, got people of people.
Yet maybe you've been here too long and you've assimilated with your mindset, but really the majority of people I know, that's not how they view their parents or their grandparents. It's a celebration of life, and the thing about our elderly, whoever they are, from whatever nationality, we then have to look at their long life and what they have actually contributed to society. Like you're saying about the wisdom, we have to think about the money they've contributed, and then to hear the government say in this pandemic, oh, you know what, we've got to claw back some money, the freedom pass, we're going to start paying for the freedom pass,
and take it away, free travel from school children.
And this is what
shows you they're nutters. They're nutters. That's what they are. They're nutters with power, with too much power. Because I remember, well, you probably remember the poll tax riots.
Oh yes, definitely.
And the only reason why that poll tax got booted out and then they slipped it back in as the community charge, whatever they call it.
Man.
But do you remember the poll tax riots? It was people who fought in the Second World War said, what is this?
What is this? It's a tax on people.
Tax on old people who had given their lives for this country in whatever bullshit war it was. Well, to me, it was a tribal war of the Europeans. It's got nothing to do with no world. They dragged in their colonies into it, or ex-colonies. But the fact is, these were people who had lost family and relatives or were survivors of the Second World War. Some of them the First World War. Then all of a sudden the government are like, you have to pay this tax. From where?
From where? Tax on people. From where?
Yeah, and you see, one of the beautiful things about this is you broaden it from just an African perspective. This is a human concern.
Absolutely.
And especially because where we happen to be placed in this historical moment and in this historical time, this is where we are, in this place. And if we can see the government, you know, which for me is probably, I don't know, the most white government you could, because them little tokens that they've got in there and the Asian buffers that they've got in there to act as buffers between the white rulership and the masses, especially the black potential voters, you know, they don't even have to hide it anymore. And I've said this before, they don't have to hide it. So why are people shocked that the people they want to penalize the most are the elderly? Well, they've got no respect for them anyway, really.
No respect for them elderly. And you know, the situation with the Windrush and how the Windrush scandal all came about. I thought to myself, well, this is where the whole idea of, for me, broken society comes from. So when the conservatives are talking about broken society, it's when you are disconnecting the grandparents from the parents, it's only going to get worse from there. So it'd be from the parents, the parents from the children. Everything will be broken, because in Africa, it's around the family. When certain things, especially when I'm working in Nigeria and I'm going into, you know, the ghettos, and even when I'm in the you know, in the city, in the posh areas as well, the grandparents are seen as with the wisdom. So certain things, when I'm in the villages, certain things are sorted out by the elders, because they've got the wisdom.
Yeah.
So if we fast forward it and we bring it to 2020, and to see our parents, to see our elders get treated the way they got treated in the Windrush, and another thing that I take great issue with when they're talking about the Windrush era, all I hear is the numbers. So, you know, black people make up this numbers.
Yeah.
We have to understand, look behind the numbers. What have black people contributed to this society? It's not just about numbers. Numbers, you can make up statistics however you want. If you are, you know, if you're careful and you're smart, you can make up. What are behind the numbers? What have African and Caribbean people contributed to this society since we came here we can talk about, you know, the time in the 18th century, but we're talking about the Windrush. What have we contributed here? Because England was on its knees and asked for skilled people. So this is another thing we have to understand. They didn't ask for anything. They asked for skilled people. They did not ask for people. Oh, that tramp is over there. Yeah, take that tramp from there. Oh yeah, that guy there, that whatless person there. They asked for skilled people to come over here and build up a nation that was broken after one but two world wars. And when they came here, they faced all the hostility. And even in the fact that they faced all the hostility, like you said earlier, they still rise through the top. And it is a testimony. It's an honor to actually be around elders, be around old people and listen to their fascinating stories. I mean, we're always looking for stories in this book and that book, and it's important that we actually have books, but our stories are within us.
Yeah, embodied. Absolutely.
When I took my children to the Bristol Slave Museum years ago, there was a black pastor who was talking about stories and saying that, you know what, we need to be writing our own stories here and now, because it's all, we have to understand, somebody like you is a history maker, because We have to understand history is not just in the past. History is when people actually make history. So when you was talking about you being the only black plumber, that's history. There is history in the making. But yeah, I feel really strongly about the intergenerational and how we see things with our elders and our elders, because at the end, our old people and the young people, and we have to understand, and we have to get the young people to understand and value what our elders done. What happens because I work in so many different schools, what happens is that the actual message and the narrative that is given to children and young people, so whether I'm in primary or secondary, is that you matter. That's the message they get. You matter. And then everybody else is obsolete. Oh yeah, parent, okay, your grandparent, yeah, but you matter. And then that is what actually manifests in certain young people, not all of them, but certain young people behavior when they're around old people. It's disgraceful. But in Africa, the family matters. So the mother, the father, the grandparent, the uncle, the auntie, the family matters. So there's a holistic way of thinking when they're a young person or a child in Africa, as opposed to some of our young people, and the African, of course, but the way they actually feel about their grandparents and extended family here.
Yeah. You know, for me, what is crucial about that, again, is that whole notion of, you know, people always quote like the first part of it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. But the second part is, if the child doesn't feel like they're part of the village, they will burn it down to feel its warmth. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I have been arguing for years, and I will argue until the day when I blow my last breath, is Europeans turned us as Africans into this whole notion of these nuclearized one-parent families. Yes, they did it. And I'm not coming out of this romanticized whatever it is, but I do know for a fact that if I go to Jamaica, if I go to Clarendon or St. Catherine or Portland or wherever, I will see little children, 3, 4, 5 years old, waiting on their own to go to school. And I'm not saying no one won't trouble them or molest them, but people will know that's a child. The child is our responsibility.
Agreed.
And you will witness that in 2020 in Jamaica. You think you'd be mad? My grandsons are 6. You think I'd be mad to leave them out on the road to get a bus on their own to go anywhere? Yeah. To reach where? So sometimes what we don't do is we don't appreciate those things that have sustained us. Because, you know, that idea of, you know, in Jamaica, them say you're Simmodification, and there's people have written about it, scholars have written about Simmodification. What does it mean to be somebody? So if I dress up, I remember when I was a youth and I'll dress up, you know, like myself and my twin brother would dress up, we're slick, you know, we're 15, 16, 17, we're going out. And what would our siblings say to us, or our mum or our dad? Yeah, you're favor Simmodification. You are representative of us. We can be proud of you. So that whole notion of, you know, your mum, your dad, and again, I know that even in the context of the UK, if you go to some of the rural areas, they still have exactly the same mentality. Those children belong to the village.
There you go, agreed, definitely.
But what it is there are too many people in positions of power who have eroded that. And then what they do is they try to make out, like when Tony Blair was in power, basically saying that the problem with the black children was poor parenting. Well, who turned us into these things? You lot did. And I'll say this, and this is a challenge to anyone. If you want to know where the most complex kinship systems are on this planet, go and speak to an anthropologist worth their salt, and they'll say across the continent of Africa.
Absolutely.
Because you can find every single one and a few more that you can't find anywhere else. So how are people going to tell us that we don't know how to raise our own? If we didn't, Brother Kehinde, we wouldn't be here having this conversation today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If we didn't know how to resist and transcend all of this shegri that they've thrown at us for over 500 years in this manifestation, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I find it insulting when people are saying to us, we don't know how to raise our children. No, the reason why we've got confused is because, as my mother used to say, peace be upon her, you take up the dirty ways of these people. You know, children talking to adults any way they feel like it. Not having it. My children, you know, they have license to discuss and debate. Like my children, I know they swear, but I can count on this hand the amount of times they swear in front of me. And me's a man with cuss and go on bad, nasty. I have to apologize. But they don't swear in front of me.
It's the respect that they have.
It is that respect, and they know that I go off and I get very inappropriate. So I have to apologize. If I had £1 for every time I apologize to them, I'd have a Ferrari outside. But what I'm basically saying is, I know that there's something that we have done with them where they know I shouldn't really be talking in front of dad like that. Or I shouldn't be talking in front of mum like that. And that for me is, those are those kind of differences. And again, you know, I think it's a simple case of, why don't you just leave us alone to get on with what we do, and we'll sort out our own stuff sometimes. Instead of imposing this nanny state on, you know, children can take their parents to court. That's the kind of madness that we live in. And these are the kind of mad, wrong-headed madness, self-destruction, dehumanizing processes that we have to deal with, especially as Africans, where they give us no merit or worth anyway. Because if they did, we wouldn't have to prefix everything with black.
That's right.
We wouldn't have to. Black middle class, black this, black generation. You know, Windrush is a euphemism for black. That's what it is. It's a bit like when they said Operation Trident. They couldn't say Operation Black, make we go creep up the black boy them. They call it Operation Butterfly, then Operation Trident. But Operation Trident becomes a euphemism for blacks. You don't have to say black. And for me, these are some of the, you know, these are some of the conversations we need to have. But I know, you know, one of the other things that you're big on, and in some ways, again, it kind of, you know, it kind of neatly moves into this, is that, and I must admit, I have misgivings, but me know use a brother that me respect your opinion. So this black pound business, what's your take on that?
Well, you know what, first of all, I have to big up Swiss, from Swiss World, from So Solid, for creating the whole Black Pound Day. And I completely understand, Professor, about the misgiving around the whole Black Pound Day, because it's a conversation that has been going on for quite a long time. What's this Black Pound Day all about? And are we just going to do it on one day and not the other?
Yeah.
29 or 30 days, and why are we only doing it now? Those were, I think, the whole idea of collective thought and collective thinking creates a good vibration across the community. So it goes past just actually saying we're going to spend this money on the first of every, for how many years. It's also people understanding that it's a collective process, and then it brings back, and you're right, in fact, it does move neatly from intergeneration, actually from the grassroots, because all of that is collective. Whether it's intergeneration, that's collective. Whether it's grassroots, that's collective. Black Pound and the thought process around Black Pound and everybody spending Black Pound on black business is collective thought. So it goes further than that. The thought of actually in the backdrop of all that's happened in the last 3 months with the protest and the situation with the statues and the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it's another way that we can try to recapture or reclaim some of our heritage and some of our customs that a lot of us may have lost or may need to rekindle in our mind, because some of us have been here for so long, and I brought it up before, that we've assimilated, and some of us don't even know it. So we could wake up in the morning and we could eat cornmeal porridge, we could eat, I don't know, jerk chicken and rice for dinner, and I don't know, have, you know, soup or the Caribbean soup or something like that. But we believe that makes us black. That's what I'm saying to you. But it's more than that. We have to understand it's our vibration, it's our spirit, it's our holistic thinking, and it's also a vibe. We can't just be in a situation where we can say we can do a few things here, and that makes us black, or that makes us African, depending on which way you want to call yourself. So the Black Pound Day and the actual thought process behind it, and also thinking beyond just spending your money in the black business on one day of the month. If we actually then go deeper into it, what does it mean for those people who probably never even thought about spending any money? They're black and they never thought about spending any money. What does it do to them? Because there are people who are like ourselves, who have learned, who have studied about who we are and what our people are about. So for us, to spend money with our people is a no-brainer to us. Any work that I do in any one of my houses, it's going to be black people I'm getting. It's my Jamaican brothers that are coming in, because for me, they're the best tradesmen. They are the best trades. They are the best tradesmen. This is all done by Brother Rohan. Big up Brother Rohan. This is all done by Brother Rohan. I'm sitting in my study right now. Well,
I can say exactly the same thing, because it's interesting, because it's my son-in-law who's Jamaican, who converted half of my garage into this study, as well as doing works all over the house. So I'm not gonna disagree with you there. But you know, one of the things that you've made me kind of appreciate, which I didn't, was the fact that the whole notion of the Black Pound can bring in those who lack awareness.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest with you, I was more fixated on, why are we always telling these people our business? Why is it £1? You know, why is it that, not £1, but why is it this symbolic thing without no structure behind it? But the way you've explained it makes me have that overstanding now. So I'm going to be a little less harsh. In fact, I won't be harsh anymore, because people never really articulated it to me like the way you just did. So it's really about raising consciousness, raising awareness, and realizing that we cannot be reduced to these cultural artifacts like food or clothing. You know, for instance, I remember I went to a talk. In fact, it was Tony Martin. The last time Tony Martin was in the UK,
Big up Tony Martin.
Upon him, and I went to that talk. So this must have been around, I don't know, 2012, 2014. I can't remember when Brother Tony Martin passed. But I went to the last talk he did in the UK, to my knowledge. And I had on like an ordinary t-shirt. So I went in there and I was with a sister who, you know, she's Ras, and she had on like some nice traditional, you know, kente cloth or whatever it was, and wrap and everything. And there was a sister at the door giving out flyers. And it was, I can't remember what his name is now, but he used to be known as Shakima Shakib. Okay. And he's changed his, you know, we go through these things and sometimes we change the name. But anyway, but the point is, she said to my sister, "Oh, sis, take one of these." And it was like for his talk he was going to do or something. And she said to me, "You need this." So I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough, you know, because I've got an ordinary t-shirt.
Yeah.
Me just have on jeans and maybe my t-shirt, I might have had a Man United top on. I used to do stuff like that to be provocative sometimes. I don't play devil's advocate because the devil no want to help, but sometimes I like to be provocative. And my sister kind of looked at me and she was going to say something. I said to her, "Sis, don't say nothing. Well, you know, there's no point." So I looked at it and I said to her, "Oh, this is Shakima Shakib." And she went, no, his name is, I can't remember what he changed his name. I said to her, "Sis, that is Shakima Shakib." I said, "I don't really know what his name is now, but I know that I went to his sessions in Dick Shepherd School in Brixton in the 80s. She could have dropped through the floor." And this is what happens when people get hung up on the symbolic. Being African is as plural as being anything else. But what happens is they don't realize they are actually excluding and collapsing. Whereas what you're basically saying to me and got me to do the overstanding, because that's what I thought about the black pound. I thought it was almost exclusive and it's collapsing us into a particular moment or mindset. But what you're saying to me is no, you know, brother Les, that's not what's happening. It's about raising the awareness of some that this money that we spend can be placed somewhere else. So you're not preaching to the converted, you're preaching to the ones who need to be converted. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Absolutely. And also we've got to understand that, like you said, with the sister who gave you the t-shirt, obviously
leaflet,
for me,
yeah.
I believe the way you believe. It's like, you can see me here. I don't have no day club, but I have no of that. Obviously my house does have African artifacts, but when you see me, just say, "Oh, there's that brother." You wouldn't think about all the stuff that I know. And in fact, it's funny because when I was in the supermarket years ago, one sister in front of me, she was putting her shopping through to the cashier. And I don't know what book she was reading. I said, "Oh, I wanted to see." She had a book there. I said, "Oh, what book you reading?" And then she said to me, "You read?"
Yeah, you see, them kind of fierceness there, you know what I mean? Them fierce, man.
I said to her, "Sister, you shouldn't be saying to me, I read. You should just, you know, just say, oh, yeah. What book are you reading at the moment? And we can have a conversation." But she said, "You read." But she must have looked at, she was also in head to toe.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's almost like being blinded by the lights.
Right. And what I found, and this is why I really like the way that the Black Pound Day has been put together, because it's going to bring in people, like I said before, who haven't thought about that or don't want to be in a situation where they go to events like we're talking about, where they will be judged because they might look a certain way, or they might a certain thing. And I've seen that happen.
Oh, Brother Kehinde, it's one of the things we witness all the time. I remember I had a sister Niger sister called Chika, and I remember we were sitting in a talk. I think it was Francis Cress Welsing and the people who were introducing her. Let's make some African noises, and they start making all these bird noises, and you know, fine if that's what you want to do. But she juked me and she said, "Les, what part of Africa did they come from?" I said, "Sissy, I forgot to ask them." So it gets reduced to that. You can't clap someone or applaud someone because it's cloaked as a Western thing. Right. But if you want to show appreciation to a brother or sister, you have to make some kind of night noises. I don't know.
Yeah, and for me, and this is what I've taken on in the last, I would say, 10 years, about looking at people who do Pan-Africanism work in a different light. So it's not just the ones who say they're Pan-Africanists that do Pan-Africanist work.
Yeah.
It's people who do work in the most obscure places ever, where you think, wow, for them to go against certain grains, you think to myself, wow. And also we have to broaden our minds as Pan-Africanism, because the world is changing. And,
absolutely, absolutely.
Young people see things in a certain way. The way Swiss has created Black Power is for the generation of now. It's not for the people who will say, oh, let's make some African noises and all that.
Like my generation, absolutely.
But it's not for it's for the people of now. The way he's marketing, the way he has actually portrayed it on social media, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on WhatsApp, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, the works. He's done it in such a way that it's engaging to the people of now. I know if some of the brothers and sisters who were saying, oh, brother Les, you need this, you need this, or the sister who was in the supermarket say, you read. I know if they had the hands, it would not have the same impact, because
absolutely.
It would
absolutely
in snobbery. It will be wrapped up in snobbery. And what we've got to understand is, when we look at Black people, or we look at African people, all we need to do is read about our people and study about our people and see how diverse we have been through the ages. So whether it's Jack Johnson, the first Black heavyweight, or Michael Jackson, the best entertainer in the world, or Sir John Henry Clark, or yourself, Professor Les. When we've got to look at all of these people are Black, and all of these people actually are people that can actually gain and galvanize Black people in all different ways of being. Do you understand? We've got to get into a situation where we've got to be broader mind and broader thinking. This is what I like, or what does this brother like, or what does that sister like, and I appeal to all of my people, not just the ones who are got their head wrap or who have got on a dashiki.
Brother Kehinde, I give thanks for the reasoning today, and the profound insights you shared with us, the stuff that you do here in the UK, at home in Nigeria, and also for actually explaining to me. So now I actually grasp what the Black Pound is about, because I didn't really get it. But is there anything surprising about yourself you want to share with us?
Absolutely, absolutely. My mum was one of the founders of one of the oldest African Caribbean supplementary schools in this country, called Kakai African Supplementary School, African Caribbean Supplementary School in Islington, and it had its own building there, council building, just around the corner from Finsbury Park station. And she used to do the bookkeeping. It's so funny. She used to come back with a book. They used to do it manually all the time. We used to ask her, Mum, what's that? Me, my brother, my sister used to ask her, what's that? And then my younger sister went to the school, and there's a lot of people, a lot of my friends actually, a lot of my friends that I know went to the school as well.
Wow.
But it was truly amazing, and when we was watching my mum as we grew up volunteering, because she was volunteering her services, that we used to ask her questions about, do you get paid for that? No, it's free. And why do you do that? So she used to talk to us about the reason why she done that and the importance of giving back. So yeah, that's one of the amazing.
But hence why you do what you do in Nigeria. You had that goal model, you had that template, you saw what your mum did. So you had the value, this was inculcated in you. This is the value of what it means to be, you know, this is the value of what it means to be an African person, but a conscious person who is awake and aware of what needs to be done to push us all a few steps ahead. So I truly give you thanks for that. And have you got a takeaway for us?
Yes, you know, a lot of people ask me about the work that I've done in the schools and the awards that I've won and the work that I do in the community, and also the work that I do in the Nigerian community. Some of what they say is, how can I get involved, or what should I do, or what should I be doing? But for me, the takeaway for me is just do your bit, just do a little bit.
So my brother Kehinde, all I can say is much respect.
Thank you.
We will definitely catch up and reason soon. Definitely, and brother, you know, keep the faith and keep up the good works, because you are that intergenerational conduit, and you're the intercontinental, international conduit that we need to let people know that, you know, this is what Pan-Africanism is. This is what it is. This is what it looks like. So don't reduce us to our garments or locks or nice fancy talk, whatever. It's about the works at the end of the day. So I truly give thanks.
Blessed.